Yes, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. We are on our next lecture that we are going to talk about the differences between the primary and permanent teeth. We talk about the different tooth surfaces, and we talk about what we call the anterior and posterior teeth. Usually we are asked about the difference between primary and permanent teeth. And it is also good for a clinician or a student to, when you observe someone's oral cavity, you need to differentiate that this one is a primary tooth, this one is a permanent tooth. And these are some of the examples and or some of the differences between the primary and permanent teeth. One is that primary teeth, we talk about size. When you look at the size, the primary teeth are smaller and the permanent teeth are larger. That is difference number one. When you talk about the size, then we can talk about the size in terms of the length. We are going to talk about the surfaces or from one side of the tooth. So the distance between this one and this compared to the a permanent tooth, you shall see that the primary tooth is smaller compared to the big size of the permanent tooth. Then another one is color. Color. The primary tooth is whiter than the permanent teeth. Remember, the tooth is made up of dentin, enamel. It allows a light to pass through, or you can easily see what is underneath it. So because it is translucent, it allows you to see the yellowish color of the dentin. That is why the permanent teeth are a bit yellowish or less white, whereas this one, which is what? White. So that is the second difference. We already talked about the difference in terms of number. We said we have 20 teeth in the primary teeth and 32 in the permanent teeth. It means that we have in each quadrant we have 5, or in each quarter we have 5, whereas in permanent teeth we have 8 in each quadrant, making the total 32 teeth. We already gave this difference about the difference in premolars. We said we do not have premolars in primary dentition, whereas in each quadrant of permanent teeth we have 2 premolars, meaning if we have 2 times all the 4 quadrants, we have a total of 8 premolars in each individual. The crown. If at all you remember the anatomy of a tooth, we said that anatomy, we have 2 major parts. These are this is the top part from here to here. This is the crown. So we are saying the crown of molars. Molars, these the behind the teeth. The molars are bulbous or curvy like an onion. So they are bulbous like this. So they are bulbous. So for primary teeth, they are bulbous or malbulbous. For us, for permanent, they are not bulbous. Oh, they are less bulbous. This one also has an effect, or has what it shows on the roots. When you reach on the roots of these molars, you find that they are bulbous. After being bulbous, they reach here and they are bulbous. Then now their roots are divergent. Yes, they are divergent. Whereas this is how it is. Whereas for permanent, they are not divergent. So the crown is bulbous and the roots are divergent. They are divergent because another permanent tooth is coming to fit in what? In this position. So it is divergent in order to allow the permanent tooth, which is bigger than it in size, to come into its position. So they are divergent, whereas for the permanent tooth, they are not divergent, they are just straight into the alveolar bone. Next, we are talking about the trunk. What is a trunk? A trunk, when we look at the tooth, for example, this tooth, we have a crown, and it reaches at this point. This point we call it where, because the crown is covered by, from here to here, this crown is covered by the cementum. It's covered by the enamel. And the root here, from here to here, is covered by cementum. The cementum covers the root, the enamel covers the crown. So this junction is called cemento-enamel junction. Cemento-enamel junction. So between the cemento-enamel junction and the point where these roots diverge, this point where the root diverge is called furcation. So between the cement-enamel junction and the furcation, this point is called trunk. We do not have a trunk in primary dentition or primary teeth, because we said after being bulbous, the crown being bulbous, immediately the roots are what? Are divergent. Whereas for permanent teeth, they are straight, leaving a trunk before having what? These roots. So this one is also another difference between primary and permanent dentition. We also have another difference about resorption. We shall talk about eruption of teeth. Eruption of teeth, as I had said before, it is the movement of a tooth from its position in the jaw to the position in the oral cavity. As we said, these ones are divergent. So for a permanent tooth to come, into the oral cavity, or to move from its position in the jaw to the position in the oral cavity, this is the primary, and this is a permanent. There must be, and this is of course the oral cavity. There must be movement from one point A to a point B. So the movement from a point A to point B, that is what? Eruption. How does this happen? For this to happen, there must be forces. There is a force down, pushing this down, what we call it masticatory force. Masticatory force are the forces created by teeth as you are chewing. Then also have the force of the permanent tooth. The permanent tooth is moving up to the oral cavity, because this is the jaw, inside the jaw, this is the oral cavity. We also have another factor, which is aging of these roots. So when this happens, it causes what we call resorption. So resorption, it happens when the teeth are eaten away, and this process is physiological. When you start extracting teeth or removing teeth of primary dentition, you shall find that the moment this happens, it is as if it eats up the roots of a permanent tooth. So that is why when you remove a primary tooth, which is due, you shall find it is having no complete roots, because resorption has taken place. Sometimes it is actually only a crown. This is what we call resorption. It is a normal process, and that's why we are calling it a physiological process. Whereas, in case by all means, or whenever it happens, that this happens and you find a permanent tooth having such, you extract a permanent tooth and you find it having such, this is a pathological process. You do not expect a permanent tooth to have no roots. It means there is something interesting. You may take an X-ray, and whenever you find something like this, then it means there is what? The resorption of permanent teeth is pathological. What it means that there should be a cyst, there should be any other reason that we need to query concerning the resorption of a permanent tooth. The next one is about the proportionality. The proportionality of a tooth, of a pulp of a tooth. The pulp of a tooth is the living part of a tooth. When you have your tooth, of course, this is the enamel. We also have the dentine, but the part where there are blood vessels, where blood vessels here, the blood vessels are in this part. The blood vessels are in this part called pulp. So, compared to the other tooth structure, the pulp is very big, is bigger compared to the other tooth structure. Whereas, when you compare this part to the other tooth structures, for permanent dentition, it is less. That is another difference. We have what we call classification. When you understand that classification is hardening. What hardens the teeth? There are minerals in the body. So the addition of minerals to a tooth causes classification. Classification is the addition of minerals, maybe calcium or others, to a tooth, making it hard. So we are saying classification begins before birth, whereas classification of permanent dentition begins after birth. Another difference. This one we talked about eruption. I said eruption, we define it as a movement of the tooth from the position is in the jaw, the position in the oral cavity. Eruption begins at approximately 6 months of age, and will end at 2 years of age. Sometimes 2.5 or even 3. But approximately at 6 years. It means it can be more than 6 years or less than 6 years. Then it will extend up to 12. Then we wait a bit up to when we shall have between 17 and 25 years, when we shall have a wisdom tooth erupting or arriving in the oral cavity. Those are some of the differences. Please, you need to note these differences because they are important to during your clinical examination of a patient. We have also tooth surfaces. A tooth surface. What is a tooth surface? A tooth surface, like any other dimension of an object, is something we need to talk about. As we continue, we already talked about what we mean by anterior and posterior. Maybe we can talk about, when we are talking about anterior and posterior, anterior teeth means incisors and canines. Incisors, these are the front teeth. Incisors, these are the front teeth. This is a front tooth, this is a front teeth. This is a incisors. Central incisor, lateral incisor. Central incisor, central incisor. Lateral incisor, lateral incisor. These are front. All these four are central incisors, and we call them what? Anterior teeth. This is a canine and this is a canine. It is also what? An anterior tooth. Then premolars. Premolars and molars, from here up to here. For premolars and molars, we call them posterior teeth. So this is also done. Anterior teeth, these are canines and incisors. Then posterior teeth, these are premolars and molars. Then I need to talk about tooth surfaces. A tooth surface is, we begin with one mesial. Suppose this is our midline. We have different teeth. If we said for permanent teeth or permanent teeth, we have different teeth from, this is our midline. Midline is the imaginary line in an individual that is dividing left and right. So this imaginary line, sometimes it is, in some people, it is extended, is a bigger. For when someone has a bigger frenulum, it can cause what you call a diastema, the space between left and right, a diastema. But for now, we are just talking about midline. In the midline, we have teeth X and teeth B. So midline, we are defining the surface mesial as nearest to the midline of the dental arch. We say the dental arch, we can have upper or lower. So for this tooth, the surface doesn't change. This surface here is what we call the mesial surface. It means that for tooth X, this is the mesial surface, and this tooth X is the mesial surface. Even if we have another tooth, maybe as far as that, we can have this one is a mesial surface of this tooth, this one is a mesial surface, and this one is a mesial surface. So every tooth in the oral cavity has a mesial surface, so long as it is the surface that is next or that is towards or nearest the midline of that dental arch. Opposite to that is distal. It means that this is the farthest to the midline. It means that this one was the mesial surface, then this one here. This is the distal surface. It means every tooth has a distal surface. This one is going to be a distal surface of this tooth. This one is going to be a distal surface of this tooth. This one is going to be a distal surface of this tooth. Farthest from the midline of the dental arch. We have another one which is lingual. Lingual, it means this one is towards the tongue. Of course, I don't expect someone to think that we can have a lingual surface of the upper jaw. It means that we are talking about where the tongue is. We are talking about the mandible. And if we have all the teeth, we have the surface. If this is our tongue, we have the surface. The surface of this tooth towards the tongue. This one is the lingual surface of the tooth towards the tongue. This one is the lingual surface of this tooth, because this towards the what? The tongue. Lingual towards the tongue. Of course, away from the lingual surface, the opposite of it is towards the cheek now. Towards the cheek. When it is towards the cheek, this one was lingual, this one becomes what? The buccal surface. Buccal surface. Other people can call it buccal surface. So towards the tongue, it was lingual, away from the tongue, but towards the cheek becomes what? Buccal. So it means that you can have the buccal surface of the lower teeth and the buccal surface of the upper teeth. Yes, we have now the palatal. What is the palatal? Palatal, we already talked about the palate, so you can imagine that we are talking about the upper teeth. So the upper teeth, this one, I was talking about the lingual surface. It means if at all I have this one here, this one where I've labeled green here, this is the lingual surface of these teeth. Lingual surface, and these ones are what? Are buccal surfaces. But for the palate, it is towards the palate. It means that now on my demonstration, this is the palatal surfaces towards the palate. Because I told you that we have a hard palate and soft palate, and I said this is the raggy, which I said we shall talk about its importance. So we have the palatal surface of this tooth, of these teeth. Palatal, 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 towards the palate. So it means that we do not have palatal surfaces on teeth, on mandibular teeth. Next is labial. Labial means lips. So it means that we have these ones. The oral parts, whether it is upper or lower, we can have the teeth towards the what? The lips. For either upper or lower, so long as these are the anterior teeth, facing the anterior teeth towards the anterior teeth, the anterior teeth, they are always near the lips. So those tooth surfaces towards the lips are called what? The labial surfaces. Then we have the last one, which is occlusal. Occlusal surface, they are these ones. When you look at the occlusal surface, it is occlusal surface. These are chewing surfaces. You can see the chewing surfaces of these teeth. So if this is maybe my molar, the upper surface is the what? The chewing surface. So it means that the molars have occlusal surface, premolars have occlusal surface, even the canines may have occlusal surface, but the incisors do not have occlusal surface. Instead, they have something that we are going to what? To call incisor edge. Incisor edge. Incisor edge because it is flat. The surface is dimensional, but for these anterior teeth, these ones, the incisors, they do not have what? A surface. Instead, they have incisor what? Edge. But for these other teeth, they have what we call occlusal surface. Occlusal surface is a surface which grinds, where food can be as the upper tooth or what? Joins what? Or articulates or meets with the opposite tooth, and this is the what? Occlusal surface, the top part of a tooth. Why is it like this? It is not straight because these ones here, we call them fissures. They are just a line of foldings there on the top of the tooth. Then because of that, they make depressions. And these depressions on occlusal surface, they are called pits. When we start talking about dental caries or tooth decay, we shall talk about the significance of these ones, or how the pits, the depressions and the fissures, they retain food where bacteria can find this food to cause tooth decay. So at the end of our lecture, you must be now able to tell the differences between primary and permanent. You should tell that permanent teeth and primary teeth are different. You should also tell me the tooth surfaces, what we call mesial, distal, lingual, palatal, buccal, occlusal, and labial. Then also, I will remind you that the incisors and canines, the anterior teeth, then the premolars and molars, they are what? They are posterior teeth. Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We have many more lectures as we shall be continuing as we learn together. In case of any question, you can put in the email, you can put your email, we shall reach to you, put your WhatsApp, discuss your friends to simplify dentistry. Thank you so much.